If you have the 94 to 04 T5 transmission and you're putting it in the first gen Mustang, these brackets won't work. These standard T5 swap brackets that you can buy anywhere. The mounting location is different on the newer transmissions, so you have to modify the bracket. So let's go over what you need to do. All right, everything points to the transmission is in the right place. It's just that this bracket is designed for the transmission, the 83 to 93 T5. This mount right here, where the transmission rubber mounts to, is actually about an inch farther forward. And on the 94 to 04, this mount is farther back. And so the brackets that you buy for the T5 swap are not made for this later transmission. Everything else lines up, everything else is in place, but this bracket would work if I had the older transmission, which I don't. That's for another day. So the goal here is to move the mount. We're gonna have to cut it. We got about an inch from, if we were to put this bolt in the slot at the far end here, we need to move the bracket about an inch that way, about an inch towards the back of the car. And we have about an inch. If we take this tube and we cut it off the bracket here and we move this tube to this flush with this edge, that's about an inch. So we do that on both sides here, and you can see here, there's about an inch there. We do that and we move this bracket back, and it'll mount the transmission where it needs to be. The transmission, the shifter mechanism is pretty much centered in the hole up there in the tunnel. You know, everything else is where it needs to be. So we just need to move the bracket back. Here you can see the side where, see, everything bolts up with the rubber mount and the transmission mount, but this rib, well, it's hard to point to. This vertical rib right here that I'm pointing at is more or less in line with the mount, this mount on the 83 to 93 transmissions, the T5s. The 94 to 04, this mount is further back, so it's not in line with this rib, and it's about an inch difference or so. And that's what we're finding is the gap between the mount that I bought and where it needs to be with this transmission. You can see here in this picture where I'm illustrating, showing a picture of the older T5 and the newer T5, you can see that the mount is further back when you compare the two. Here we can see I got the parking brake latch hooked up, and we're at the end of the adjustment here, and we haven't really tightened this down. So when we move this whole bracket back towards the back of the car, it's just going to essentially move this part further up the threads about an inch or so, and then we'll adjust it and tighten it up. So we'll still have plenty of threads. Worst case, I can just add some more threads to this rod here and we can adjust it farther down. But the nice thing is we won't have to adjust the parking brake bracket location when we move this mount backwards. All right, so here's that bracket. We're gonna just go ahead and cut off these welds here, and we'll bolt this U-shaped piece. Here's a good example. Okay, so we're gonna, if this was to stay here, we're gonna move this direction, so this edge should be flush with the outside of that, and that'll move this whole system with these bolt holes and everything, move it back about an inch, and should put the bolts of the bolts off the rubber mount of the transmission go right in there, and then we won't have to modify anything else. So we'll just go ahead and cut those off on both ends here. We'll bolt the U-joint, or this U-bolt looking, this U-shaped piece up to the car, and then we'll get under there and we'll just tack this in place and then take it back off, and then I'll weld it up. I'll probably have to do some grinding, and I'll probably grind it and paint it before I'm done so you don't see how bad my welds are. Okay, let's do that. All right, it's a little warm, but okay, so we're gonna clean that up. You have to be careful when you're cutting this off that we don't get cut too high on the tube, because we're gonna cut this flat. So we don't wanna do is change this distance. So we wanna get as low as we can with the welds. So when we put this back on here, we're gonna move this one from this side to that side, that we don't change would be the height of the mount. We want the mount to be the same height so the transmission is sitting in the right spot vertically.
All right, there's the other side. Again, this one we will, actually, what was it? It was this side, so it'll sit like that in the car. It was like this. We're just gonna move it, like that. So the next thing is I'm gonna get these cleaned up, these two U-shaped pieces, and then I'll bolt them into the car and then clean up this, and we'll get everything in place, and then I'm gonna tack this in to these pieces on the car.
All right, we got these things bolted, these U-shaped pieces bolted up. So now when we test fit the bracket here, we're just gonna have to kind of hold things in place. The transmission's off to the side just a little bit, but here we are. We can see that once I get that thing lined up perfect, it's flush with the edge of that mount like I was talking about, and these go in there, and then this, I'll have to position that, but anyways, it'll be the same as the other side. So now it's time to, what we'll do is probably put some nuts on here just to hold this to the mount, and then we'll position everything and just start tacking it in. All right, so we tacked it in place. It's kind of hard to see from here, but it's not the prettiest thing. I mean, I'm not getting any score for my weld, but we just need to hold it in place. Then I could take it off and take it over the bench and do a little bit better job, but I'll probably grind it and paint it before I show that. But anyways, we're looking better. We're good. So for those that need to do this modification, if you have access to a welder, obviously, I mean, I have a little wire feed. It's nothing great, and I have to rely heavily on my grinder. But I was able to move this thing back. Everything's where it needs to be. Everything lines up, and these bolts are not in the way of the bar for the parking brake, so everything's good there. I haven't finished hooking it up, but I'm confident that we're good there. So yeah, that's how you do the mount if you have a 94 to 04 T5 and you're putting it in your classic Mustang. You just have to modify the mount, because I haven't found one that they sell for us. All right, thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, I'd appreciate it. It helps my channel out. We'll see you later. Take care.